met artist Helen Levin several years ago after I had written an article for the Council of Arts and Humanities of Staten Island newsletter. Helen had read it. She found it very interesting. She contacted me and she wanted to meet me in person and see some of my work. I brought her to the St. Clair's Preschool in Great Hills on Nelson Avenue, because that was one particular project that she had been intrigued by. And coincidentally, she was doing a series of paintings, abstract paintings based on architectural space, which she was entitling Arc Homage. She did a painting that was actually inspired by St. Clair's, which is Arc Homage 7. So fast forward to 2013, I thought of the fact that this is really a unique situation, that architectural space is, in essence, the solving of a problem uniquely for a client became the inspiration for an abstract painting. I thought this would be a good lecture. I contacted Helen. She then informed me that that particular work had been acquired as a part of the permanent collection of the Staten Island Museum. Again, coincidentally, I happen to be a member of the Board of Trustees of the Staten Island Museum. So we put our heads together and we came up with the lecture, which talks about the intersection of art and architecture. But today, we're going to talk about some of my work and how art and architecture are related. So there's that relationship between artistic expression and architectural expression. Architecture is the mother art. It encompasses aspects of every art that we know. It's got rhythm, it's visual, it's textural, it's sculptural, it's full of light. So every aspect that you see in other art forms is reflected in architectural, both in the exterior of the building and the interior. And now I'd like to present Helen Levin, who will then now talk about her work and how she's inspired by architectural space.
I remember I wanted to have a painting inspired by a local architect, and I called up David and I said, do you know any good, interesting projects going on? He said, yes, come to see the interior, see the new work I'm doing. And I got very hooked on the St. Clair interior, that St. Clair school that you designed, that you showed before. And you gave me a picture, and it became one inspiration. And serendipitously, when I had the show here, completely unbeknownst to the staff, the Staten Island Museum chose to have in their collection that painting called Arc Homage 7, which they didn't know that was inspired by David's. And David came on board. I told him, I said, that happens to be your painting. And that's why the serendipity of me being here. So it's all worked very nicely for me.
So this is I'm going to present to you the project that brought us here. The St. Clair's Parish Center Early Childhood Development Center at 150 Nelson Avenue in Great Hills. I designed this project. It was a true collaboration between myself and a friend of mine who was unfortunately deceased, Stephen Perella. It was our combined brain power that generated the project. And I called up Steve because he said, we got to work together on something. And I said, I have the perfect project to collaborate on. So from the basic floor plan, we put our heads together and this is the result. Now, Stephen was a theoretician. He was up at Columbia. He was involved with a lot of really forward-thinking architectural theory. And he came up with a theory that he began to call hypersurfaces. And in a nutshell, without getting into the issues of society and capitalism and everything that he was trying to bring together into architectural design and how to solve some problems, it was at his roots is, what do surfaces do? What can walls do? Are they merely space dividers, or can they have other functions besides maybe hanging up a picture? Okay, so we went through and analyzed the program, and knowing that we had to have a lobby, we had to have an office, we needed some community space, we needed at least 4 to 5 classrooms. They had an arts program, so we had an art room. They had a dedicated art room, so we were going to have one of those. There were 2 existing bathrooms. So we came up with the flow space from the lobby, which is secular, because it's the lobby, it's the place where everybody walks into the building for basketball games, for everything else. back to the classrooms, which had more of a religious aspect, because beyond the curriculum, it's a Catholic school, so the kids are being taught the basics of Catholic faith. And that's reflected in the colors, which goes from the secular, which are warm, to the spiritual, which are cool. And we brought in the colors of the rainbow, and we infused them into the floor with tiles. And we brought them to the outside in acrylic panels, which were put next to the windows. The path through from lobby to, this is the door that I said, you got to be kidding me, you can't bring people into there. That was a right angle. So we inscribed a circle, which made sense. It gave access to each of the classrooms individually. You can see how the space is very dynamic and very varied. That was what drives the work. The creation of dynamic space that will solve problems is basically my job. And this is the first one that really started to reflect that. You could see the fact that back here, there's like an angel. There's a dome light right in the middle of it, and you can see the walls. Now, the hypersurface idea comes into play because these walls are active. They're not just static divisors of space. They have function. We had to deal with cubbies because the kids got stuff. We have to hang clothes. We have to store supplies. So rather than going out and buy furniture or anything else, we shape the walls and have built-in furniture and cubbies in the shape. So there's not just this wild stuff and here you go. The other side of that Z has cubbies in it. Right? Makes sense. So the walls are multifunctional. And the upper part served as gallery space because the kids always do artwork and they're hung up. Even the water fountain was thought about. That drove the contractors really crazy. You can see the Z-shaped wall, okay? And how the ceiling flows through it. And like I said, the horizon line really worked. When we opened the school, the first day that people were coming in for the opening reception, one kid said, "This is like 4D," and she got it. That's exactly what it was meant to evoke. Art room. So we went nuts. Steve said, "Does it have to be art, or does it have to be architecture?" So the intent was to blur the distinction between the two. So I said, "Let's do it." And we came up with these shapes. And we said, "What are we going to do with the floor tiles?" We said, "Let's just throw them on the floor." So we literally got floor tiles. We threw them on the floor. We noted it. Wherever those color tiles landed is where they were installed. We were on site for much of the construction, or else it never would have happened like this. So, and when we came up with the idea of this cabinet, John said, "You got out of your mind. You can't do it." We wanted the laminate to line up with the paint lines on the walls. And he got it. He was able to line that cabinet up and get the paint lines aligned with his colors nobody else could have done it. Next. These are two of the classrooms in the rear. And we shifted the shape of the walls in this to, rather than being leaning in, they lean forward, and the inflection line, the 3.5-foot horizon, is bowed out. And you can see the different levels of lights. We went with surface-mounted lighting and recess-mounted lighting, and as the ceiling steps down, the lighting changes. We have short pendant lighting also. So the lighting had to vary with the ceiling height. Then you can see in the lower slide in the lower right-hand corner how the angel shape, gets into some of that space, and you see the built-in furniture that we integrated. Coincidentally, Helen, you were influenced by Co-op Himmelblau. We were influenced by Co-op Himmelblau also with that elevation. Right? And we knew that we had to get that. The view from the gym was important. Why all the glass? Well, there was no way. We discussed putting an elevator in for accessibility. They hold Easter Mass down there, as well as, of course, the basketball games and many other functions. It's a parish center. The cost of the elevator was prohibitive. We have bad soil conditions on site. It would have been a real expensive prospect. So I said, why don't we just use a lot of glass, and if you cannot get into the gym to watch a ball game or to attend Mass, why not arrange the sound system so that you can attend Mass or watch the ball game from the classrooms? And that's what they did, and it made a huge difference, because to this day, they're still doing that. If you can't get into the gym, you can watch from above and the sound is brought in through speakers. And that led to the exterior. We redid the canopy, and you can see the night shot, and you can see the plexiglass, the polycarbonate colored fins that are in the colors of the rainbow. Kids would walk by there and recite the colors of the rainbow. So the education starts on the outside of the building. And the best part about this, I think what inspired Helen so much, was not only the uniqueness of the space, on which I collaborated with architect Stephen Perella, who is since deceased. What intrigued her, I think, was that we really did solve a problem in essence. It was a space that was in desperate need of renovation and repair. A lot of problems had to be solved, and there could have been two ways to do it. One, really simply, lay run-of-the-mill boxes, typical preschool type stuff that anybody would see, or we could have gone in a unique fashion of designing a very radical space, which we did, and that actually solved the problems better than the plain vanilla boxes would have done. So we have dynamic space, which inspired kids, which doubled the enrollment of the preschool, and which in turn inspired a painting by an abstract artist. In essence, the two do intersect. The two minds are kind of alike in the way we think and how we approach a problem and how we solve a problem. And one building inspired two different methods of creativity. And I think that was really what made this particular lecture special and a unique educational opportunity for those who attended.